Right. Welcome everyone. My name is Tong. This is the sales office hours. We use this office hours to kind of discuss sales topics for the sales projects. Yeah, we have a few things. Alexandra, you have the first item.
Hi, yeah. So I'm coming as a backend engineer from Plan, and I'm currently looking at the functionality that we have in Plan of moving an issue where now it is translated to moving work items across namespaces, which is kind of a foundational functionality implant because people usually like would create a plan of implementing something, then they would decide that actually this needs to be redistributed to other teams and things like that. So they would move things around. How it is implemented today has been raised as problematic with customers for multiple times, where like we are closing the original issue and then having it created under a different ID, totally in a different project. So if that happens a couple times, they kind of move track of the original issue itself. And if it's a like high visibility big item, then it becomes problematic to refer to that original initiative or whatever you want to call it as something that everyone knows about, right? Because you lose like it changes the reference a lot of times. Anyway, the idea would be that can we implement this motion functionality more in a way where it kind of stays as the same issue but in a different place, right? Um, so one idea is like copy and delete the original one, but that does not preserve the identifier, the global one, basically. So my question is, and I've been discussing this with Mario in our team and Adam, and the question that we raised is like, can we then just change the namespace ID itself on the issue? That gives us the possibility to preserve basically the global ID at least, so the APIs at least can refer to that global ID all the time without having to track the changes. Gives a better UX in the APIs and the UI in general. So that's basically the first question. Can we do that? Does that conflict in some ways with your effort? From the little understanding I have, is like not, but probably that's not correct.
Right. Okay. I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. There was something that I missed that there is demand to change the existing move issue to a more of a yeah, instead of a clone, copy and clone, it's a move issue. Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this is kind of more of a item 1E instead of the original question. But the background is that we need to isolate all features to scope to a particular organization, unless in general, that is. So like if we move um, issues between namespaces that are the same organization, that's not an issue. Um, but separately, we also have a thing called sharding key, right? So a sharding key is used to it's used basically by the org mover to determine which rows to move from one cell to another if we need to. So instead of
Mhm.
copying all rows, we only copy the rows that we need. So if midway, it's highly like it needs to be immutable, very much like the ID, like the primary key as well, because if midway if we change it and while we're moving it, then the org mover has lost track of it. Uh, And now we run the risk of data corruption, essentially. So that's why we really think that needs to be immutable. And then the other thing is that there is also kind of like cascading effects as well. So I don't know what table relies on issues, but we can't just update the namespace ID on that. We need to update all the sharding keys that depends on that issues table as well, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen behind the scenes anyway. Like all the associations to that issue will change the namespace ID to the
Yeah.
new one in case that data is movable, so to call it, because there can be a lot of rules if you can change that namespace ID or not, depending on permissions and things
Mm,
like a lot of other things. So it's it has some complexity behind the scenes. Well, a lot of
yes.
that, but um, the thing that I was thinking about is one thing that we cannot move across organizations. That's probably I can bring back to PMs, and that's probably okay. I like that will solve 99, not well, like some percentage, some high percentage of the cases that we need with the moving. I don't think like there's a lot of moving across organizations in general. Um, but so that will be okay from my perspective. Like not changing the namespace at all, even within the same organization, is probably more problematic again because the other solution is just to create a copy, and that's hard to maintain the um I don't know how to
Yeah, yeah.
say
Yes, I understand. Yeah, I
uh,
understand if you want to do
and
that.
another thing about the cell mover, my question would be, we could restrict this kind of actions of moving an issue. I understand that the moving should be transparent to the customer. They should basically not even feel it, right? But and like also my thinking would be that during the move, certain functionality would be restricted in some ways anyway. Um, like I don't understand fully how the mover will work, but my feeling is that there will be some complexity behind the scenes where I don't know, something will need to be not happening for a short period of time, maybe for the moving to happen. So I'm just wondering if there will be some sort of a flagging that these sharding keys are being rebalanced to a different cell or something like that. And that's
Yep.
something that we can check in the code and
Hmm.
say, well, sorry, for a short period of time, this operation is not possible. Retry later, or some sort of a UX, right, where the customer would know that, okay, a maintenance window is happening or something is happening where I cannot do this, but that operation is going to work afterwards, like, I don't know, after X amount of time.
Yeah, I'm not like I don't see maybe that could work, but it's similar. It's similar to how we have primary keys, and we almost never alter a primary key. So, and it's also very hypothetical at the moment. Alt mover doesn't exist yet, so it's very hard for to say whether it will work or not work. We will definitely have a maintenance window. So there is definitely a maintenance window where we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna move this organization now. Um, so you can't write to that organization's data while we move it.
Mhm.
So that's definitely happened. So it might be possible. Um, but yeah, again, org mover is still not created yet, so I can't say for certain whether that's a good idea or not. Gut feel it's not a good idea because it's a bit like we almost never change a primary key, so this is almost like a primary key for the thing for
Well,
that row. But yeah, it's a
yeah,
conflict. Yeah.
I don't know if there are always exceptions to the rule. I don't know if we should or can count this one to that, but yeah, I do understand uh it in to some extent. To the other extent, like I don't know. Yeah.
Um. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know is the answer. I can't predict the future. And also, I kind of yeah, this is where I kind of wish like we had alt mover, so we can test this out. But that's not happening yet.
Because my understanding with the even so, if the namespace is the sharding key, like from a very high level, the org mover would be like dump everything from this database for these namespaces or whatever the query is, right? That creates the dump, and then import that dump into the next cell database or whatever. So during that period when you want to select this stuff, yeah, it's highly undesirable that things move around right from these specific keys that we want to select from. At the same time, when the moving is not happening, which is probably not an operation that happens daily or something like that, it feels kind of too much to restrict functionality on that, right? So I don't know. Like this is my understanding of salt. Is we will be using that to allow growth, right? Like to allow to scale horizontally. So at some point, if one cell grows too big or something like that, we would want to rebalance stuff. But that should not be an operation that is a daily routine or something like that.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So like I feel like there will be a lot of planning still going into the mover where how to because so another thing, like in plan, we have a lot of cross references, right? You can have, like you have an epic with a lot of children. These children can come from a lot of different namespaces. It's not like these children are limited to just one namespace. It's coming from a lot of places. So much so, I think I'll need to recheck. So much so that, for instance, between GitLab com group, right, which is a root level group, and GitLab org group, you can have things that are cross-linked as children. So when the word mover will move stuff, it kind of has to run some sort of an analysis, like at least which root groups should be moved together so that we don't break that organization's workflow because we moved one thing versus the other. That's
But
probably something that will happen before when we assign organizations, but still that's something that should happen.
that's the
No.
idea of the organization
Yes.
isolation, that we have to make sure that when they are on the same cell, sorry, we already have like with the idea of the sharding keys, that all of them have to all the issues and the relations between the issues belong to the same organization. That's why all the records in database should eventually point to the same organization, so that different organization on the same cell, they give the impression to the customer that they are on different cell, that they are different cells, that they are isolated, even if they are on the same cell. So that when the organization mover later moves them to another cell, it does not have to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
I think the idea at some point to have, I think that was POC from Dylan at some point, that once we create new data or something, we have some triggers that see like, okay, is this the same organization or not? So yeah, maybe we have to check for the existing data. Of course, we have probably to at some point to I don't know how to handle existing records, existing data, but that's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I understand and it makes sense. That like limiting your issues, whatever, to a single organization doesn't limit it it does limit to a certain collection of namespaces, right? But that should not limit you to move issue between those namespaces. In my understanding, that should not, from a very high level, they should not influence the mover either. If the mover is based on the organization ID, everything that's contained within that organization, the whole collection of the namespaces would kind of transparently move to the new cell, right?
So you said moving issues within the same organization. I
Yes.
think moving issues within the same organization should be fine. Like
Okay.
there should not be no problem. But maybe moving issue from organization to another, this should not happen.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that. So one other thing right now, like right now on .com, we have a single organization, right?
The
Okay.
default organization, yeah.
Yeah.
We have other organizations. I think we are using them for testing within the tenant scale.
Yeah, no, in general, I'm trying to think like, what do I need to do from a plan perspective? Like, it feels like we need to add a lot of checks in the code today that does check, is this namespace part of the same organization when I'm trying to do some operations, right? Like if I'm trying to move, if I'm trying to even to create, like I don't know, some other issue, and then I want to link it, is it part of the same organization or not? Because like today, I don't think anyone is checking that yet, but
Yeah, we have
I'm
to
kind
slowly move towards that. Yes, we have to
of,
slowly
and
move
then
towards that.
I was going to ask another question and I lost my train of thought on that. Hmm. Oh yeah, when so today when well not today whenever we have let's say on .com we now have one organization, but let's say we add another organization to try and onboard, for instance, new customers to that, right? How do we know the root namespaces to which organization should belong? Does that make sense? So,
The
like as a customer,
organization,
as an existing customer, I want to add another root level group, right? How do we assign to which organization that will belong? That will be something that will happening
each
behind the scenes,
customer,
or
no, each
no?
customer has their own organization.
So they will okay, that will be pre-assigned by us somehow behind the scenes, right?
No, the customer creates their own organization.
When they sign up, probably, like, because
Yeah,
in sales 1.0 we have one-to-one mapping between the user organization, so one user can interact with only one organization. In the future, I think sales 1.5, if I'm not mistaken, users can interact with more than one organization. But at the moment, if you are authenticated, we already know which organization you have. I think we have probably some method called current organization, which maybe you can use in the code as well. So if you know the user, you already know the organization. That also is going to help us with the routing.
Okay, I see. It's the okay, the user. So if
Yeah,
you as a user create a new group, it's assigning you
yeah.
to the new organization. Um, okay,
I'm not
okay,
sure if
okay.
Tong works on the organization, but we have probably half of our team work on the organization stuff who can probably help you. And it happened, I think none of them are in the call today, but
Yeah,
I can like refer you. Maybe we can help you also with answering these questions.
yeah.
okay, I'll figure it out. But just for me to, as a takeaway for myself, is like changing this sharding key, but within the same organization, does feel all right for the sales team. Then is that the conclusion that I can drive from
No,
this?
not necessarily. Like, we don't know yet. So even if it's okay today and we have org mover later, we might come back and say no, it has to be restricted to one
Well,
organization.
yeah, I do need
Yeah.
an answer somehow to know how to move forward, right? Like the know and don't. Yeah, I understand that we don't know yet. Is like how can I come back to this and plan and moving
Yeah.
work forward for
The
time to.
recommendation is not to have sharding keys as immutable. So if you're using namespace keys as namespace ID as sharding key, then it comes with risks of updating it. Same as the primary key. So one other idea I had is to use organization ID instead as the sharding key. So like when you create a issue, it's clear that this issue only belongs to that, say, that organization, and that never changes, right? Um,
Yeah,
so, but it comes with some trade-offs because it's so low down the thing. Like if in other kind of sharded kind of architectures, it's very normal to have like a tenant ID as a column in all tables, and that's what we will eventually move to. But right now, it is not feasible, uh, because everything's on one default organization. So like in the far
so
future, like everything will have organization ID, and then we can have these types of things, these types of features, no problem at all. Yeah.
okay, so if we can take on adding the organization ID to the issues table or association or whatnot, would that solve your concerns in that case? Because like my understanding was that we don't want the organization ID column on the leaf table notes because that will mean we'll need to update a ton of rows when we move over
Exactly.
to the new
Yeah,
organization.
exactly. So there's trade-offs either way. So we can't have like the feature, the availability, and the org mover. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, so that's why I'm like like in my head when we move. the word mover without the organization ID based on just the namespace being the sharding key is much less work in a way and more transparent because we can do the restriction at the application level that we cannot move stuff outside of namespaces in this specific organization. So then the mover doesn't have to care to update millions over millions of rows. Like you'll do the same select, give me all the data with this particular where clauses, and that should be enough to do the move. Well, I'm saying should be enough. I know there's a lot of caveats to that. I'm just like,
Yeah, yeah. So we have to choose one of those. Yeah. Okay. Why don't we yeah, why don't you come to the tenant scale channel and then there's more organization isolation team who can work with you, Alexandra? Yeah, on that one. I think
so
that's an issue as well, isn't it?
there's an issue on move. There is not much that around this namespace stuff, but I can create an issue with this specific question and we can maybe start another discussion there. Um, I think we had a discussion about not using organization ID as a sharding key
Yeah.
for the issues, and that I understand completely. You need to update too many records if we use it on all leaf nodes. I don't so much understand the namespace ID not being immutable if it's within the same organization ID, but again, maybe there's something that I'm missing. So I'm happy to bring it up to the tenants tenant scale.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for
All right.
listening to my questions.
No. Thank you. Thank you for bringing this up. Um, let's move on to number two, Vishwa.
Maybe we start recording now.
I thought, isn't it recorded?
I think it's
I
already
don't see
recording.
the recording. Ah, it's
Oh
recording.
my
Sorry.
God. Oh,
Did they move it? Okay. Yeah, they are recording.
Okay. Phew.
Okay. I thought they
oh.
moved it from one place to another. Okay.
No, Zoom
But I
changed the
can,
UI.
Yeah, okay. Good.
I like how you waited until the whole discussion ended. Okay, maybe we start recording now. This
I didn't want
this
to
tricky
interrupt.
question is out of the agenda now, so we can start recording.
But towards the time with Oma, like I also see like this record button at the down panel. So I thought so like could be confusing that if I can press it, yeah. All right, yeah, thanks. So yeah, my question is about do we plan to have any kind of like health check thing in terms of sales architecture? Because we know like I mean, like currently it's like there's one GitLab.com, and then probably when we do the health check, it will look for the servers, and if they're up, we send back yes, right, or like one of the server will get the request and send back the status. Now with sales, there will be like probably different. So what I meant to say is like let's say the organization or the namespace I'm trying to deal with is in cell 2 and like which is probably getting hosted by yeah, some other servers. So will it be possible to have a health check endpoint that would relate to specific organization or specific namespaces that we can check, or will there be any other like general health check endpoint that we can rely on, saying like, hey, if this returns okay, then probably we can make a request to GitLab.com to, let's say, update a namespace or something like that.
Okay. So you do know so there's no plans at the moment because
Okay.
sales are meant to be working independently. So there's no such concept as three cells are working, therefore the whole class is working. Like
Okay.
the whole point of sales is that Oh, the other cells can keep working independently. So that's kind of the idea. Um, I don't know exactly what, like, do you want some sort of like a you want to make a quick request to say, let's just say we can actually route some sort of like request, right,
uh,
to that namespace that you're interested in. Let's say in cell tree. That's it.
uh,
So you make a request and we can route it there. And then you make the same request again to cell tree. Is that
yeah,
what you're
so
after?
kinda. So like at the moment, so like I did a quick search after your like question, like what is the reason for such health check? So
Mm,
predominantly what we're doing at the moment is like, we make an internal call from customer dot to GitLab, right? So like before, like, before let's say building the data and that needs to be updated on the GitLab side, we first just check like, hey, is GitLab.com alive or not? And if it's not alive, then we just return early and then show some kind of, like, for example, some kind of error message to customer that, hey,
I see.
I don't, like, GitLab is down or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah, so those are the main feature based, and also there seems to be some users in like maintenance or like metrics collection, like GitLab.com or Jira that we use. Like we try to ping those services and see if it's alive. I need to check with the platform team, like what do we do if, let's say, GitLab.com is down for last, let's say, 10 minutes. Maybe we also show some kind of error or warning. And that's the other part.
Mm.
Do you know if customer dot makes the request to GitLab behind Cloudflare or like within the cluster?
I
So
think
do the request do the
yeah,
request oh,
it makes public request, I think, probably because it makes this Git API v4 version. This is the one that we use. And when I looked into it, I found some documentation that the IP needs to be the IP of the caller, let's say the IP of the customer dot probably needs to be whitelisted to make this call.
so it has to go through Cloudflare. So it has
That's
to
my
go through
yeah,
the router. But that
yeah,
that means also so you already know like mechanism to know you already know what to do to redirect the request to specific cell, right?
yeah. I mean, like it just needs some kind of identifier, right? Mm.
Either cookie or something that tells the
Yeah,
router
yeah.
towards then I mean all the cells should still have the API version endpoint. So that means that you can use the identifier and then call that.
Okay.
I mean, most probably we have a health endpoint for all of them because Kubernetes needs that, and all of the, as far as I know, I don't know if
Mm.
that. I mean, but yeah, the health endpoint should also exist on all the cells.
Yeah. So first thing would be like exactly. First thing would be probably like getting the identifier, but then uh, like what about the general metrics collection that we do where we don't really care about the particular cell, right? So like for one would be like you said, okay, I want to make an update to namespace A, which is in cell 3. So I just want to do an pre-check if it's, if it's working or not, like, if that cell is working or not. So that's one. And second is a general metrics that we collect if GitLab, yeah, .com is, up or not. For that, I think it doesn't need to be any cell. So probably we can just use any any default cell
Any cell.
for that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think if you want to make a specific request to a specific cell, just make the request. Yeah. And if it fails,
Mm.
you get 503 or 502. Yeah.
No, so the thing is like for this health check endpoint, I will also share the link over here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it needs authentication, like so some kind of admin
Yeah.
token, and that what we want to get rid of, right? That's what we're doing all these things. So probably we could have some kind of another like new endpoint, like an internal endpoint or something. Does it make sense? And then we could make call to that endpoint.
But in the case of the specific cell, why do you need to make two requests?
Uh, I think we can probably so like I said, it's just I think a bit of like over safety check, like just like hey, if it's okay, then let's calculate and then let's make this call. But yeah, if we have a usually these are like a background worker, so it could also be like if it's idempotent, it could also be like make a request. If it fails, it retries again, like the
Yeah,
whole
something like that.
yeah, that could happen too for sure.
Yeah.
That it just needs maybe refactoring a bit on our side
Mm.
for that.
Yeah. I would think so. I mean, like you don't need to get rid of it immediately because, like you say,
Mm,
it's fine for cells 1.0. It will just be
yeah,
routed to the
yeah.
default cell, and it will always succeed because it's there. Well, yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Yeah, this gives lots of info. Yeah, we can take it async. Yeah, later.
Okay.
Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Mishra. Probably your next few ones.
Yep. So my question was, I'm trying to like access the gRPC APCs which we have been exposing from topology service. So I want to like consume the newly introduced sequence range information from the API. But this has to be like consumed in the GitLab.com code base. So I was just like searching for if there is any existing client which any existing like topology service client which we can use for getting this value. And I was just like reading Omar's comment in there because I was seeing the initializer and it had some commented lines. I couldn't like find much information following that link, but the issue which Omar has linked in this sheet, I think that's having all the proper information. So I will wait for that issue to be completed. But as I mentioned in the last comment, I can also like just assume that that API is going to be ready in some time. So it's just a array of two integers in it. So I will continue with the development in the GitLab.com code base so that I will wait for this to be merged because uh, I don't even have to wait. I think it's ideally going to be a rake, which will be called when we are provisioning the cells. Since we don't, or at least as far as we are not like hooking this rake in the cells provisioning, I can even like go ahead and merge the rake without it breaking because it won't be called at all. So yeah, that was my question, and thanks for the comment, Omar.
This issue that I created for the client. I created it probably 2 weeks ago, and
Yeah,
Tong also like confirmed that it makes sense. It was in the backlog, so now I pulled it to the next milestone. So maybe we can start with some basic code, some basic client, and
yeah,
probably we can just pull the cell information so that we can unblock you on that. I think we can. It
mm,
makes sense to start with that now.
yeah,
Yeah, we haven't started development on phase 5 at all because we are still working
mm,
on phase 3 in our team. Phase
yeah,
5 we are still for the claims in planning, but I think now this makes sense to start with that. Um, yeah, but the code I pushed also some like POC merge request that because
nice.
I thought it makes sense a little bit for the planning just to confirm some ideas.
Mm,
Uh, yeah, I think you can just like mock the response now. Just assume that you get some numbers, and in the meanwhile,
yeah,
hopefully, maybe by next week or the week after, we can have some basic client there.
yeah. If there is a single client which can be reused in multiple places, I think that will be great. Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks,
yeah.
Omar.
I think we will have something like Italy where like we have different
Mm,
class
yeah,
per like I mean Italy they have I don't know tens of classes. We have in our case we have
mhm,
3 services. So
yeah,
yeah.
sure. And I have the other question as well. So from database team, we are also like going to, or we have already started working on it, but not very actively. Um, we made an estimation for converting all the integer IDs to Bigint in our primary database, which is the current GitLab.com. This is not going to be a blocker for cells 1.0, 1.5, but with cells 2.0, um, I was going through the cells iteration docs, which is here. So it was just mentioned that it's going to be the entire cells architecture is going to be fully functional for every customer. So I also like assume that we'll be moving organizations from secondary to the primary because that's when we need all the IDs in primary to be bigger so that we can move orgs to primary. Without this being done, we can't move organization to the primary. So my question is whether we will even do that because I would assume that we always want to cut down organization from the primary, not the other way. Uh, is there any decision being taken on that, or it's too early to even discuss that? But yeah, yeah,
I think,
rollback is a mhm,
yeah, I think the only thing I can think of is rollback. So like, well,
mhm,
we move organization from the old monolith cell
mhm.
to a secondary to a new cell, and then we go, oh, that's not great, so we want to move it back. That's the only case I can think of. Yeah.
Can the rollback happen in 1.5 as well?
Yeah, no, we're moving organizations out of the monolith cell in
Yeah,
1.5. Yes, yes,
yeah.
that's right. That's right.
But do we want to like roll back in the 1.5 itself? Because this is a time-consuming project, like converting all the integer IDs. There are around like 500 plus columns which we have to deal with. And our initial estimation gave around like at least a year to complete the entire migration. So yeah, this might be something good to have in mind while planning the features which we want for 1.5. We can also like discuss this later as well. I can imagine you're all focusing on 1.0 now, but just thought of giving an heads up on this.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
if we want to roll back, it'll be very immediately after that, right?
Mm,
Normally,
yeah.
like we discover something's gone wrong,
Yeah.
yeah, transfer or something like that, then we want to roll back. In which case, hopefully, no new records have been written. So
Mm,
if
yeah.
there's new records that's been written, then becomes a big problem. Yeah, yeah,
Mm, yeah. Yeah, true. Because I think we can copy the begin to integer. The auto typecast should allow it until the number is within that range. And as you were saying, if you're going to like roll back immediately, that should go through. It will only fail when the range is like going beyond in 32. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So maybe for the first cells
Mm,
for the new cells we don't allocate um
yeah.
very big
Mm,
ranges. Yeah, but it is possible that we will allocate big ranges. That's beyond the limit of the
yeah.
yeah. So it becomes a one-way door then, right?
Mm,
It's not great. Yeah.
yeah.
So we have
Sure.
to test that out. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Good.
Sam.
Good call out. Yeah.
And yeah, the next one is not more of a question. It's to get the opinion on the way I'm planning to get this done. So in order to like make sure the database sequences are not overlapping, we will be like setting the ranges for each sequence in the database. And we are planning to like set the limits only for secondary cells, not for primary. We are just like going to give a huge range for primary and then start with a minimum value with the first secondary cell, and then it will grow in a way that it's not overlapping with other cells. And with the current information and topology servers, I don't think we have a way to like figure out whether the particular cell is a primary or secondary. So I just thought of like adding another flag or key in the config and then returning that along with the cell info so that um, we can, while provisioning or yeah, so that we can make a decision whether to update the sequence limits if it's only like secondary cells. But I can also like see that this can be if because we will be provisioning the cells only for secondary because primary is already running. So I can just like call the update sequence limits for from cells provisioning. I have to like find that process now. Like I don't know how we are going to like provision and what are the scripts that will be run during provisioning. So if that's not possible, I thought of like quickly altering the API to also like spit out another flag.
As far as I know, that we want, or we already got off the names primary and secondary. I think we don't even have, we don't want to have that in the code.
Okay.
Because it might complicate stuff. But I see your point. Maybe that something can be done with feature flags. That okay, like update the sequence. Maybe, but maybe there's better ideas.
Yeah. Um, sure, Omar. I will also like comment few thoughts on the issues and try to ping more people, like definitely you, to get some ideas on while working on this, if
I
that's
think
fine.
I think when we
Mm.
when we configure the monolith cell in phase 6, we will run a rake task to say loop through all the tables and
Mm.
then display the maximum ID, sorry, maximum sequence for each table. And that's where we set the maximum for the monolith cell. So the monolith cell will have cell info as well in the topology service. And
Mm.
it will most likely be 0 to some number, right? Like
Yeah.
32-bit or whatever. Yeah. So we just need to confirm that that is still true for everything. And I think that should be okay. So we don't even need to distinguish whether it's primary or not. We just set it statistically that 0 to for the monolith cell, it's 0 to I can't remember the number. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, there was a different issue which actually pinned that number. I think it's 44 bits, so that it's actually well under the range.
hmm
Um,
hmm
but the reason for my question is the if we are going to like alter the sequence, it's going to like take a lock on the sequence object and it will block the concurrent transactions. So we do not want to do that for primary. So that's why distinguishing whether it's a primary or secondary came into the place.
Yeah, I
Um,
see, I see. So even though we set the 0 to 44 bits, um,
yeah.
there is no guarantee on the database level in the monolith cell that yeah, that's the max file. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, yeah, that's right. But as we did some analysis around this, and the
Mm,
44 bits should be like more than enough with our current scale
mhm,
or based on our current data in the database. So it's like it can accommodate 200x of the current maximum ID from a table. So, but yeah, as you said, it's we can't actually guarantee that.
yeah.
So from the
So
secondary side, we can set the min value and max value, but for primary, we just thought of leaving it out, like so that
mm,
we know that we just like have to assume that it will be within that range by giving a bigger range.
yeah.
But from the database team, we are also like working on finding the impact of altering sequence because internally it's just a one row table for each sequence object.
Mm,
So once it gets the log, it will be very quick, but it will take more time to like get the log because there will be like a lot of inserts happening. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of having a flag instead of saying that it's a primary cell or
Hmm.
left cell sign? What do you think of a flag that says that it's not the sequence hasn't been altered yet, if you will. I can't remember. I don't know what you call it, but it's like database. No database. Yeah, no database constraints yet, or something. Yeah, or yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's not. Yeah. So the sequence database is not really used yet, and then yeah.
Okay. Sure, Tom.
Something like that. What do you think, Omar?
Mhm.
Yeah. Which-
I cannot tell now. Like
mm.
maybe I look into details later.
Sure. Yeah, we can also like have this discussion async in some issues, given the time. And there is one more question. Sure.
That's good.
Thanks for that.
So I'm a backend engineer with the delivery group, and we were thinking about how we would roll out feature flags to cells and the interface that engineers can use to set feature flags in cells. So I just wanted to bring up some points and see if anyone had any thoughts or concerns. So one is that we are planning to enable organization as an actor for feature flags. I don't know if this was already planned. Um, I also don't know if there's already an existing issue, so I created one. Another is how the feature flags will be rolled out. So for deployments, the plan is that new versions of GitLab will be, or new versions or new packages will be rolled out ring by ring. So all the cells in one ring will receive a new package at a time. So similarly with feature flags, all the suppose someone is trying to set a particular feature flag, that feature flag will be set in all the cells of a ring at a time. In case of a gradual rollout, there'll be a pause after a ring is set. In the beginning, there'll be a manual pause. We'll rely on engineers to watch metrics and make sure everything is healthy on the ring before continuing to the next ring. But in the future, that can be automated, and the tooling can automatically watch particular metrics that the engineer decides. So there'll be a pause between rings, and if everything is healthy in the ring that the feature flag was rolled out to, it'll roll out to the next ring, except for during an incident. So during an incident, if the SRE on call wants to turn off a feature flag, that has to be immediate. So it'll still be rolled out ring by ring. That's up for debate still, but there won't be pause between the rings. And if that is not good enough, then we can look at enabling or disabling the feature flag on all cells on all rings at the same time. Sidekick worker flags. If anyone has any question or any comment, please stop me in between. Others, I'll go through the whole thing. So Sidekick worker flags are a bit different from regular feature flags. So usually Sidekick will probably misbehave on one cell rather than all cells in a ring. If it misbehaves on all cells in a ring, then you can just use the normal mechanism to disable or enable the flag on an entire ring. But if it's required to target a particular cell, then that cell needs to be moved out of whatever ring it is in and into a quarantine ring. This is so that no automation executes on that ring. Otherwise, regular automation deployments and change management will continue executing on rings. So you remove that cell from its regular ring, put it in a quarantine ring, so no automation runs, and then you can target feature flags on that cell. In all other cases, you cannot target a particular cell for enabling or disabling a feature flag. Yeah, and that's it. Any thoughts or concerns?
I think that's okay. That makes sense. Yeah, you're right that if the actor doesn't exist on that cell, um then it will insert a row in the feature flag saver for that ID or something, and then the effect is that it has no effect. So that's okay. The and I think that initially, if we do it ring by ring, it's okay as well, because we will not like have thousands of cells. It will be more on the order of like a few. So essentially, it's like firing off either sequential API requests or concurrent API requests, right? So yeah, something that does that, right? Does that make sense, Ruben?
Yes, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And from a previous discussion that we had on one of the meetings, um, it doesn't seem like we'll reach a level of 1,000 cells. So even with a few hundred cells, that will probably be enough for a few years to come at least.
I think so. It's the only thing is more HTTP is very slow. So if you want to fire off 100 HTTP requests, it's gonna take maybe 10 minutes. So if we can live with it, then we don't have to do anything else. I mean, we can just use that, but we might want to consider switching the feature flags to pull from a central source instead. But that's like so far in the future that we don't have to think about that for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
and then for the sidekick worker flags, we can target a particular cell if you really want to. Someone just needs to hit the internal DNS of that cell and request the API, make the API request to create a feature flag, right? That should be doable.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but the idea is that all cells in a ring should be as homogeneous as possible.
Right,
So
right.
you have to move the cell out of that ring first, put it in a quarantine ring, and then you can modify that cell.
Yep, that's the same thing. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
achieves that both aims. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah. Uh, so maybe we want to update the design document because I think currently our design document, which was written by Scarbeck, says we will not do anything for Sales 1.0 if I'm not wrong. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we are working on another iteration of that design document.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
About push versus pull, we had a discussion about that. Pulling seems very resource intensive for the service that will be rolling out the feature flags. So um, if all cells are pulling every 15 minutes, say, y- you're going to have a lot of resource usage at regular intervals. Even if you sort of randomize the intervals, um, it's going to be more resource usage than pushing to the cells.
Yes. Yeah,
But yeah, this isn't a one-way door. We can change it later as well.
yes. Yeah, yeah. And with pulling, there's going to be caching and all sorts of things. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we don't need it now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's thanks for looking into this. Yeah. I
Thank you.
mean, generally it makes sense to me. Yeah. Uh, do you know what we will be continuing to use the ops pipeline to set all the feature flags or something else?
So at least for the short term, uh, I think we'll have to continue using ChatOps. So that's the ops pipeline.
Mhm.
So then ChatOps can talk to the service. We were thinking of Tissue, using Tissue for that. So yeah, so ChatOps would talk to Tissue and then Tissue would initiate the change.
Yeah. Yeah. So tissue will come back with here's a list of cells. Yeah.
Yeah. And if say it fails to set the feature flag on some cells in the ring, it will come back with that error message and then the initiator can decide what to do.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
If anyone has any comments, they can add it to the 20436 issue. that I've linked in my original comment.
Okay. Yeah, I've also pinged Alex on the 498238 issue for the organization feature flag. He might have some thoughts on it, because the organization is almost there, but not sure where it is at yet, whether we can use it as a feature flag actor or not. Should be possible, not sure. But yeah, just we'll wait for Alex to confirm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The idea there, just to give some context, is to make it easy for targeting particular cells without actually needing to know like the cell ID or the tenant ID or something. So if you need to target a cell, just target all the organizations on the cell.
Yep. Makes sense. Cool. I think we're at time. So thank you everyone for coming. Yeah, this thanks for patience as well. It's been a big agenda. Yeah. And this will be uploaded to YouTube. So yeah, I'll post the recording link as well in the agenda. Cool. Thank you everyone. Have a good day.
See you.